an evil spirit that devours mankind. Let's jump into an Algonquin narrative. Welcome back to the channel. You can call me Grim. Consider me your guide in the darkness. Now, turn off your lights, grab your cookies, as we sink into another episode of Grim and Ghostly. Today we will be looking at the Windego, the creature from the Algonquin people. This Algonquin term means an evil spirit that devours mankind. There are multiple stories that are related to this topic, but there are a few that revolve around similar narratives. One of these goes like this. It is in reference to a warrior who has made a deal with the devil to save his tribe. He gave up his soul and is allowed to transform. Depending on the narrative, what he transforms into can vary. But he transforms to obtain strength, the strength needed to assure his victory. He will transform to have immense strength. Some stories make him into a more beastly form, 15 feet tall, an emaciated beast that grows with every human he eats. This allows him to go into battle and defeat the approaching enemies. Afterwards, he is no longer accepted for his form. However, unfortunately, he is unable to return to his original form, and he was banished from his tribe and forced to live in the forest, forever cursed, and cursed with a never-ending hunger for human flesh, as well as feared for his bloodlust, a spirit-like creature to forever roam the forest. The other story, perhaps the more common lore, goes like this. This is the tale of a hunter or a group of hunters that gets caught out in a storm, caught in the cold of the winter. They resort to desperate measures. These desperate measures are cannibalism, eating the other members of the hunting party. This would be the beginning of the curse of the Windego. They have opened up to their greedy nature and therefore opened up space and a susceptibility to the Windego curse. When they return to their family, their lust for flesh has grown, and the curse of the Windego has set in, leading them to eat their family as well. They may return to the unknowing tribe, acting as if nothing has happened. Their family is fine, or goes unmentioned, and it is unclear what happened to the other members of the hunting party. The tribe would start to notice that something is off with this member of the tribe. They would notice the hollow, vacant eyes of the person, perhaps the smell of decay. The tribe would then try to deal with the supposed Windego. This is where the tribe's shaman would get involved. They would try remedies to expel the Windego spirit from the person. One of these that appears in many of the tales is the remedy of making the person ingest melted fats of animals, particularly bears. In some stories, keeping the cursed Windego by a large fire to suppress the colds of the heart of the Windego, temporarily at least. There are similar stories from other tribes. The Wabanaki had similar creatures such as the Chino, and others can be found through other neighboring tribes. The monster could be nursed back to health and humanity through constant warmth and extreme kindness and hot bear fat soup. Shamans could sometimes expel the Windego through rituals or spells. Out of the respect for the culture, I will not try to pronounce this ceremony. But This would consist of a satirical mask and dance. They would dance backwards around a drum while wearing a mask, smudging using purified herbs. Sage and cedar were common. The mask would be that of canvas or heavy cloth, with a large nose, exaggerated features, and the dance would be in a contrary way to make the Wendigo leave through laughter and social pressure. It was thought that if the Wendigo was entertained enough, it might leave. If nothing worked, the Wendigo had to be dealt with. They would eliminate the person and then burn the body. It has been said that there were instances where there would be a remnant of a frozen organ, typically the heart. This is where the icy spirit would reside and settle in its corruption. In order to fully expel the Wendigo, this icy organ would have to be destroyed, broken down, and made sure that it was melted completely. Once this frozen organ is melted and destroyed, it is thought that the curse of the Wendigo has been completely defeated. Now that we have been over some of the basic tales and have a little understanding of the Wendigo, let's dig in a little bit deeper. The Wendigo is a creature of insatiable hunger for human flesh that is associated with winter, and as we have seen before in these stories. These are stories of people being trapped by winter in desperate times or taking desperate measures that revolve around cannibalism, or often revolve around cannibalism. This is meant to emphasize the moral of greed. The origin of this cryptid comes from North America, Algonquin tribes. The Wendigo is an Algonquin term that means an evil spirit that devours mankind. The Algonquin people are a large group of North American tribes. Some of these include the Powhatan, Wampanoag, and the Nantucket, and further inland, the Ojibwe and the Cree. The area that they would mainly cover is now known as present-day Quebec and Ontario, in the densely forested regions of the valley of the Ottawa River. The territory also spreads into North Minnesota and the Great Lakes. Influence and descendants are found throughout North America. Many languages and other tribes have been found to have relation to the Algonquin people. Relatives of the Algonquin people have been found since to have ventured into Idaho, Oregon, and the Rocky Mountain Great Plains, as well as many more areas. With this also comes the spread of their culture and lore, and therefore the Wendigo. Since its origin, tales of the Wendigo spread far and wide. Other names you may hear in reference to the Wendigo are the Witiko, Manaha, Chinu, Kiwuk, and many more. The Wendigo is described by many sources as a contagious psycho-spiritual spirit that preys on the greedy and the selfish, and the cannibalistic. It serves as a warning of those traits. This malevolent spirit will transform those committing these acts into the Wendigo. By many sources, they are described as being thin, with mummy-like skin, skull and skeleton pushing through their ashen gray skin, with pointed animal ears and antlers, eyes sunken and glowing like red-hot coals, standing 14 to 15 feet tall. While I agree this paints a very distinct picture, this turns out to be quite inaccurate. This portrayal appears to be a misrepresentation that comes from a film. This comes from a film in 2001, The Windego, by Larry Fessinger. This portrayal strips the original meaning of the Windego and its cautionary tale against selfishness and greed. As some would say, it further others the Native American culture by overemphasizing the naturalistic and mystical aspects of the lore. From the viewpoint of the creature feature, I can see the desire to increase and dramatize the transformation, showing a clear evolution of the creature, or just establishing a clear antagonistic character. With these additions of the characteristics, it absolutely does this. But, not trying to get too deep, isn't there something terrifying about a spiritual possession causing an insatiable hunger for human flesh? The person beside you, a relative, a friend. Not only that, but now, to kill the beast, you must kill and find its frozen heart, burn and destroy it. From my research, it appears that the traditional description of the Windego appears to be more straightforward humanoid. Within the description, this could be any member of the tribe. This person may have ashen gray skin, and as they progress, may start to have sunken features. The skin might pull tight over their skull and bones, the skin showing thin. In many tales, the Windego grows with humans consumed. However, how much depends on the tale. In many of the descriptions, the Windego is also shown to have chewed off lips as they grow with hunger and start to devour themselves. Now, doesn't that paint a picture? I have also seen multiple stories, and from multiple sources, commenting on different foul smells, sometimes as if the person is rotting. With this being said, it gives them an impression of a greater likelihood of them walking amongst a community. It may be noticeable, however, not nearly as obvious as it would appear in other descriptions. In other descriptions, it's a grotesque beast of monstrous proportions, snatching citizens with no trace. Alright, maybe an over-dramatization, but also an interesting thought on the validity. Is it a humanoid that looks like one of your community, or is it a grotesque beast? There's horror to each, but portrayal of the message could be a little more clear. There is more to discover with the Windego, such as the development once Europeans enter the scene, and other developments that have affected the narrative. There's a full other chapter on this alone, and we will continue this at a later point. However, I hope this helps give a little more insight into the Windego, and the lore, and where it comes from, what it represents, as well as some of the misconception. Thank you for joining me on this episode of Grim and Ghostly. Now, turn off your lights, look into the shadows, listen to the whispers, and I'll see you on the next episode of Grim and Ghostly.